Welcome to OG55 Live. Today we are talking about Epic Universe, the big Universal park / resort. Fans are talking about this thing opening up in a couple of years. Should Disney respond? How should Disney respond? We're going to talk about it. We're going to take your comments and questions as well up next on OG55 Live. Welcome aboard. And actually, you know what? I got one more intro because we're talking Universal today. There we go. There we go. We're going live, everybody. Like I said, today we were talking about Epic Universe. Should Disney respond? How should they respond? Great conversation today. It's going to be a lot of fun. But before we dive into all the festivities, I want to introduce my fantastic panel right over here. We got the Family Man 23. George, welcome back, my man.
Absolutely. Glad to be back. Glad that we got a full house today here, OG. It's perfect time to do it. It's an online party here at the OG55 house.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But anyways, if you would like to see me, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Disney Family Man 23. You can interact with me on Twitter at Disney George. You could check out the new podcast I am a part of called A Walk with Walt. And of course, you can find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. There we go. And right over here, we got Theme Park Casual. Welcome back, Casual. It's always good having you on the show, brother. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yeah. Glad to be back. Thanks again. You can find me on Twitter and YouTube at Theme Park Casual, where we have theme park thoughts, news, and discussion for the casual visitor from a former theme park commando.
Yes. Give him a follow on Twitter, a subscribe on YouTube. Down below, we got Mr. Wizard, Ethan, our Universal guy. That's you. If you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
You can find me at Theme Park Wizard on YouTube, at Park Wizard 1 on Twitter, and then theme_park_wizard on Instagram, Theme Park Wizard on TikTok. That's right, TikTok. And buy my stuff at themeparkwizard.shop.
There we go. Buy this man's merch. There we go.
Oh, you gotta have Wizard's intro here. He is a Universal guy.
Come on. You know, a little fun fact too. If you go to Universal Studios Hollywood, right by the entrance, Mr. Wizard actually bought billboard space. Is it still there, Wizard?
It's still there.
I saw it the last time I was there. It's still there.
That is wild, man. You're a baller. What street is it on exactly so people can check it out?
It's on the corner of Cahuenga Boulevard and Universal Studios Boulevard.
Check it out.
Literally outside the entrance. So you have, I think you have Disneyland's billboard. Then you have yours,
and then mine. Both.
Right next to Disneyland. Wow. Limited time magic. So check it out before it blows away.
That's right.
And then last but certainly not least, we got VashSky, Dr. Dre, the fire marshal, the lawyer of all lawyers, producer Dre, the man who wears many titles. We got Dre in the house.
Very much.
There we go. Host of the Freshly Squeezed Show. Dre, welcome back, brother.
Hey, what's going on? I am glad to be back. I was back a little bit, but incognito. Now I'm fully back, and I am happy to be here. Almost didn't happen tonight because, Windows and Road. Thank you for being part of tonight's festivities, starting out with technical difficulties. I do apologize for being late, but I am here. And if you guys want to follow me, you can go and do so right there at VashSky. Just right down there. Just go ahead and type that in. It should pop up for all the, as Christine Wastelands McCarthy would say, for all the, let's see,
robust
discussion right there. And if you want to see me, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55. So please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment, because we are going to be reading them throughout the show, I am sure.
Yes.
And you can see my show there as well, Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove. And because we're doing a live show, here we go.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
There we go.
There we go. It wouldn't be a live show without O'Reilly.
It would.
So we are official. Okay, so yesterday, this guy right here, Ethan, he dropped a fantastic video. I urge all of you to check it out after the live show on his channel, kind of making the case about, should Disney respond to Epic Universe? So Ethan, I'm going to start with you. And a lot of people, they might not have seen that video. If you can kind of reiterate your kind of take on this, like, should Disney respond to Epic Universe? Should they not respond? Like, where are you at with that, sir?
Well, see, in the video, I made the case that Disney has 6 parks, including the water parks, with Universal's 3, including their water park. Disney's already much, much, much bigger. So Universal's like in a growth mode, and Disney's like in a mature type of market type of mode, and they have all these half-day parks, big ones, but there's like 9 rides in each of them, except for Magic Kingdom. I made the case they should expand those with new attractions, not replacing them, with new ones to add overall capacity to their parks. And that would be the response if they want. They should do that anyway, but if that would be a response, they should respond how they did with Pandora and Galaxy's Edge. Just add these cool lands and increase the capacity of these awesome parks instead of building a new one. Funny how many people actually watched the video when they commented stuff about 5th Park, and that's not what I was really talking about at all. But that's funny. That's the automatic response people think is 5th Park. But no. You have all this space and all these other parks. Build them out big time. Make them all full day experiences.
Yeah, and Wizard, I completely agree with you. And it's a lot of fans have this mentality that it's a one size fits all. Well, Universal's building a park, so then Disney has to respond with another park. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the case, because each company, like you said, Ethan, is at a different place, right? Like Walt Disney World is a, like you said, a much more mature, kind of fleshed out resort. They've had, decades of expansions and what have you. So adding another park for Walt Disney World doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't make sense because there's only so much time families can spend on vacation. And, with four theme parks, 2 water parks, and Universal's parks, you're already coming to a place where families are going to have to start making decisions as to what to sort of leave out of their vacation. You don't want to add one more park in that equation where you're cannibalizing your stuff even more so. So Ethan, your idea of just kind of fleshing out the parks they currently have is a great idea. Hollywood Studios needs a lot of work. Okay. Build that park out, make it a really nice full day park. Animal Kingdom is a beautiful park, but you know what? There's not a whole lot to do there. Flesh that park out a little bit, right? That's your response. Magic Kingdom, make that Villains Land, make that Villains Land. That would be a huge hit, but make it dope as hell. Make it kind of like Wizarding World with that Gothic architecture and what have you, like a really cool Villains Land. Stuff like that would bring people in droves to Walt Disney World. You don't need to build a 5th park. And honestly, a 5th park would do nothing but hurt, I think, the resort even more so. Dre, what are your thoughts, man? In terms of like adding a 5th gate in response or not? What are you feeling?
The company hasn't had the idea of building out another gate in order to compete with a competitor like Universal for many, many years. I mean, not since Disney's Hollywood Studios was actually open have we seen the company be that aggressive on that front. Even in the 1990s, late 1990s, when Paul Pressler was, he was advanced in stature from the president of Disneyland to the head of the Parks and Resorts division. He even said, he's like, look, let's just wait and see, and then we'll respond. Even in that case, it was via an expansion to Disney's Animal Kingdom. In the form of Beastly Kingdom. Obviously, that didn't quite happen when Islands of Adventure actually opened during that time. At least that kind of that drop off in guests that many expected. And so that was probably a wise move at that time, and I believe they'll use that same kind of mentality now. And even if they do or need to respond, which, you know, I mean, when you look at, you know, the resort hotels that Disney is building alongside this theme park, that Universal is building alongside this theme park enterprise in the form of Epic Universe, one would expect, or one would think, that Disney would respond in some fashion if they do experience not just cannibalization of guests, but also a kind of a movement, a center of gravity shift in terms of revenue. That was one of the reasons why they really responded to Wizarding World in the way that they did back when that debuted in 2010. It was really about the revenue. It wasn't really about the guests, right? So, but look at what, you know, how Disney has kind of responded to those things. It's really with themed lands. It's with additions to their existing parks and so forth. And I believe they'll do so again if they are forced to. Fifth Gate, while, you know, Disney has kind of circled the wagons on that for some time now, and actually fast-tracked approval for that to actually take place before this board for the previously the RCID was switched out. Fifth Gate is on, you know, is part of the master plan going forward. But would it be in response to Epic Universe? I don't believe so. And Bob Iger has insisted as much. He said that this is a mature market, as Ethan has astutely pointed out, and that they would be likely more interested in building out parks that, frankly, a lot of people see as half-day parks, like Disney's Hollywood Studios and Disney's Animal Kingdom.
100% casual. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, I completely agree with Ethan that building out the parks is the way to go. Because, like you were saying, as people start getting more parks to deal with, something's got to give, because you're not going to say, oh, well, let's just tack on another 2 days to our vacation.
Right.
You're going to have to start saying, okay, what are we going to skip this time? And if Disney adds another park, it's just another one of those variables where somebody can say, well, we went to Epcot last time, the kids didn't really have a blast, whatever. You know, it's all the different reasons you have for, you know, nixing a park. Or, you know, we can do Animal Kingdom in the morning, Hollywood Studios at night. That gives us a day to get over to Epic Universe. You know, when those kind of decisions are being made, Disney needs to figure out how to get people to stay in their parks the entire time and not want to miss what's at Disney.
Right. Yeah. And George, what are your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, I mean, basically what everyone has said, I'm right there with you. I do feel that Walt Disney World needs to expand the parks that they already currently have than to start up a whole nother new one and trying to find ideas just to kind of throw them in there. And especially that when you start out a brand new park, it's not going to be fully fleshed out as an entire whole day park, but yet you're going to pay that premium price for a full day ticket, which that's what people are doing now, even with Epcot, with Hollywood Studios, with Animal Kingdom. You're paying a full price ticket for a somewhat of a half day experience. So to then add on another park to have to buy another whole full day ticket, and it is what it is, because you're not going to have a full park completed. I mean, Animal Kingdom was built in 1998, and it still needs work, and especially the rate that Disney moves along with projects. Whereas with Universal, they kind of move it along pretty quickly, but I still don't die on Disney for that, because they, you know, sometimes slow and steady wins the race, you know, of how things are manufactured and built. But I feel that if Disney was to kind of reiterate to the popularity of what Epic Universe is proposing it's going to do, I were to think that if Disney did it well with the Villains Land, that would do it. However, they would have to do it well, and they would have to base it off of not diluting the land, right? Because the catering more so for young children. Oh, is it too scary? Is it too dark? They have to get out of that perspective, because Harry Potter is that same way, but you go
Kids
ride
love it.
Forbidden Journey. That thing is not diluted at all, but yet it's widely popular. Disney has to get out of that mindset that everything has to be sugar coated, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, a villain's land should have like that gothic architecture and be like a real like physical grounded place and really spooky, just like Wizarding World is, you know, kind of like that darkness, but still very fanciful. That's a perfect tone for a villain's land. You don't want to have like this, like, you know, cartoony, like Ursula, Spinner, and all this other garbage in there. It has to be a real place, you know, not I don't know. They got to do it right.
It should contrast itself with Fantasyland next door.
Right, exactly.
That's what it should really do. This should be the Fantasyland for adults, let's say. I think that would be a smart direction to go in. But I think a lot of people underestimate just the level of investment that it takes to actually build another gate as opposed to expanding a gate you already have. And that is a significant investment. And it is risky in order to do that for, as you pointed out, OG, earlier, you know, if you cannibalize your existing park, you know, which did happen with Disney's Animal Kingdom, interestingly enough. That cannibalization did happen within Resort. How successful have you been in your objective of gaining more revenue if you're just moving that revenue around? So that's and with a significant investment on top of it. So that's, I think, another thing that people have to kind of understand about the prospect of a fifth gate. It really has to make sense from all corners.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Disney is kind of having this kind of wait and see mentality with Epic Universe, because nobody really knows how it's going to affect crowd patterns. For all we know, it cannibalizes the Universal parks. You know, maybe a family goes to Epic Universe and stays at the hotel at Epic Universe, calls it a day with Universal, and goes over to Walt Disney World. We just don't know. Or maybe they spend most of their vacation at all three Universal parks and cut out one of or even two of the Disney parks. That could also happen. But really, until this park opens, we really don't know how fans are going to react and how families are going to manage that time.
And it's not just time. OG, remember, it's also revenue, right? It's also who gets the first bite of that apple. And as we've seen with Super Nintendo World, even as it exists today, at Hollywood and its sister parks, right? We saw some Mario merch in Disneyland.
Right.
That did kind of happen there, and so you have to take a look at the revenue as well. You have to take a look at a bunch of factors before you consider, okay, do we move and shake and shift things around in order to bring people back, and that way we get the first bite of the apple. I think hotel stays is also got to be a big part of it as well. Yeah. Because if they're staying at Universal, yeah, they're visiting Walt Disney World. That's great, but that's a lot of revenue that we're also leaving on the table. So, you know, it's kind of all these things that you have to kind of include, and that I think that's why they're taking the wait and see approach, just to see. Yeah. Because here's the thing: this is the first theme park built in the United States by a major corporation like Comcast or like Disney in the social media age. Remember, Islands of Adventure, Northern Animal Kingdom benefited from social media really being a big presence in our lives, and we've seen how that's shifted the Disney parks and Universal parks, like these corporate parks where you just have, you know, year over year revenue and visitation increases, right? We've just never seen this on this scale and on this level before. So that's kind of an interesting question that I think has to be factored in here. That it could be unsuccessful, yeah, but I don't know. I mean, you know, those clicks, those TikToks, those Instagrams, you know, they get people going.
Well, yeah, and if the what if presentation that was done at the D23 Expo does come to fruition, I think it would be pretty much set that on the spotlight will be on Animal Kingdom and probably Magic Kingdom due to the fact of the proposed lands if this were to exceed expectations with Epic Universe. However, if Epic Universe doesn't do as well as the hype is, and Disney says, you know what, why put investments in Walt Disney World right now when we don't have to? Because OG, you have said it time and time again, If they really don't feel the threat to need to spend money, they're not going to.
Correct.
Why pour $1 billion? Why pour $1 billion or more into a response that doesn't need to happen? Like if Epic Universe opens, right, and it kind of fizzles, why is Disney going to respond to that, right? Or why preemptively respond to that and then it fizzles? That's even worse. So,
or even if it does get positive reviews, there's a difference between having positive reviews and having something that's just monumental, like extravagant, like how it was with Wizarding World. That's why Disney beckoned the call after Wizarding World opened to rave reviews. That's how we ended up with Pandora at Animal Kingdom. That's how we ended up with Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge. Correct. But again, if it's not, where would Disney invest? And actually our buddy Marty Snyder mentioned, with everything going on in Florida, Disney would be better off investing near the future in California. And I think that probably would be the direction that if Disney really doesn't need to, I think they're probably going to try their hardest not to really put the spotlight on investment right now at Walt Disney World if they really don't have to.
There are
and especially I was just saying, especially with this new oversight board, we just don't know how vindictive they're going to get with this. Are they going to really, rake Disney over the coals with every decision? Are they really going to look? DeSantis came out and said next week is the first oversight board meeting, and the press and the media better buckle up. So he's expecting day one to be drama for Disney at that meeting. So this is like, I don't know. In my opinion, this is going to be a real rough ride, and maybe Disney might not want to deal with a lot of that, and they might like Marty's saying, hey, you know what? We'll just focus on Anaheim, because while Anaheim is also drama, it might be less drama than a Republican candidate running for president that's looking to clout chase a little bit. So it's a little bit what's worse at the moment. But go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. And really quick, and then also with the Lake Nona issue on top of that as well. So everything is like geared at Florida right now. But
right,
go ahead, Wizard.
I was going to say, at least Anaheim's not saying there's a new sheriff in town.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, new sheriff in town. Go ahead, Dre.
We're talking about the permit princess there. Oh, that's good.
Permit princess.
Yeah. There are tangible risks when it comes to a mature market, as Ethan pointed out, and I think we've heard that. I mean, we've seen in the past Bob Iger has been, I don't know, a little bit. He's had some favoritism towards Disneyland in the past, right? When it comes to level of investment, and yes, as you guys point out, it's a contentious time in Florida right now. So do we really want to rattle that cage at this point in time? Probably not. So there's a lot of factors at play here. Also, too, you have to remember you've got some big events coming in the SoCal market as well. So that could also be one of those like, ooh, hey, maybe we put the eggs here just for now. That way we can better capitalize on those events as well. That's why I think the Avatar thing is quite interesting. I don't know. Well, you obviously don't know the scale of it, but that just shows you. Did Bob Iger talk about any investment over at Walt Disney World, or did he just limit it to Disneyland? That also kind of gives you the inclination that I think Disney has towards the Florida market as it relates to Epic Universe.
And it actually could help out in a sense right now. I mean, I know Florida's going through a lot of drama, but it could actually kind of put everything kind of on pause while Disney kind of gets everything, back up to their their likings, so to speak, that they're comfortable with when it comes to spending and with revenue and what have you. Because, sometimes if you hurry and you rush something right out the gate and just say, oh, you know what, let's just put this here for the sake because Universal is having something, then you end up with another DCA 1.0, or you end up with a whole entire park of Pixar Pier. So if you're going to do something, do it to the full scale that Disney has the ability to do, and don't rush it.
Correct, but it just requires a lot of money to do that.
Right, so, but that's what I'm saying. So I wonder that's why let it kind of flush out within Florida with DeSantis and Lake Nona and what have you, rather than rush it and spend the money and give you something that's crap. Wait it out and like build up your build up your spending a bit.
When it's a little more stable time with the company and with Florida politics, maybe then you invest. Go ahead, Dre. I'm sorry.
You would want as least amount of impediments as possible. It's actually why Disney increased their stake or one of the many reasons why they increased their stake in Disneyland Paris, for example, right, is to get beyond the impediments that they were facing with the banks of Paris, France, and so forth that they had to go through in order to get approvals for different ride concepts and ideas and so forth. I do agree with you, George. They would have to. You want the situation because it would require so much money. You want it to kind of cool down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's see. Right now, the only thing I want in Florida is a nighttime parade. Yeah, exactly. Oh,
yeah.
Should we tell people how close we were to
go ahead?
Night this
Let them
year?
know. Break their hearts, Ray. Break their hearts.
Oh man, we were this close, guys. This close to getting paid tonight this year. This close. Floats are in the back.
At Disneyland.
In California.
In California, yeah. Sorry, Florida. You're gonna have to be waiting just a little bit longer, I guess. But we were this close, and
they should have just kept Spectro Magic there. I don't even know why they would even remove the parade there.
Did they ship Spectro Magic? Is that what happened? Like
from what I've heard, I think they shipped them. Yeah, and I think they were repurposing them for something else, but apparently, I guess because of the shutdown and everything, and it just kind of put everything in limbo. And I guess, I don't know, maybe the shipping rates for FedEx went too high for them to ship it back.
Right.
Well, I've heard that the paint night floats require a lot of work. They're in really, really bad shape. And that the original companies who did the fabrication installation of some of those effects, well, they're no longer with us. So it will take a considerable amount of investment to actually, go forth and make it show ready. Unfortunately, that budget didn't come to pass. We'll just have to wait a little bit longer. And apparently, Josh D'Amaro, he's a big fan, which is why he's still pushing for it.
And that's good. That's good. Like, we're very critical of Daddy Josh here on the channel. It's good that I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear he's a big fan of Paint the Night, and he's still behind the scenes working to get it done. So, And look, if we were that close to getting it, I'm sure the floats are still around. Well, it'll come back. It's just a matter of time, in my opinion. So we'll see. And our buddy Doc Hart's in the chat. What's up, brothers? What's up, Doc? It's good to see you. It's good to see you,
Doc.
What's going on, Doc? And Kyle Boucher says Spectro Magic got destroyed in the Florida heat and weather when Electrical Parade came back in and they didn't properly store it. So that kind of tracks with what Showcase was saying, that it was just kind of rotting backstage.
Which is so weird because they have enough land to build warehouses.
Then again,
and so forth.
that's what's so frustrating to me, Dre, is because, again, I'm going to mention it again. Walt himself had said, we have something that we didn't have at Disneyland, and it's the blessing of size. And with so much land and property that they have, I just don't understand why they can't get creative in the sense of just practical stuff. To just be able to say, hey, you know what? Let's build a bigger storage unit, and it's like I don't get it. but John McKinney, go ahead, OG.
Yes, John McKinney. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much, brother, for the
very much
for the generous super chat. We appreciate it so much, John. Thank you. John is saying, since Disney owns Marvel, should Islands of Adventure replace Marvel Superhero Island with DC Superhero Island? I actually would like that better because I'm more of a DC guy, to be honest. Is this realistic? Here's the thing, John. That would actually be a pretty dope idea. There's a lot of rumors right now that David Zaslav is actually kind of interested in actually selling Warner Discovery to Comcast Universal. We'll see if that actually happens. I know there's Discovery just swallowed Warner up, so there's legally they got to wait a few years. But if that happens, maybe. But the problem too, though, is what I understand is that the DC theme park rights are tied up with Six Flags as well. So it's in this big kind of legal knot. Okay, so it's an issue. But in an ideal world, yes, a DC island would actually be really cool because then you can give the Marvel rights back to Disney, and then Universal can kind of have their version of that with DC. I think that would be pretty awesome. Dre, what do you think about that? DC coming to to replace Marvel Superhero Island?
So it was interesting because as I was having, I've been conversing with WWE Pro and what he's hearing from his sources and so forth. It's kind of crazy, but from what I understand, there is movement towards the direction of maybe incorporating DC characters at some point. Now, these talks are very, very preliminary, but there's a couple of things driving it. One is we have to remember that Hulu's kind of up in the air, right? And those rights, they could stick with Disney, and Disney could buy out Comcast's share, or Disney could actually sell those Hulu rights to Comcast in exchange for, as we would assume, cash, but maybe it might be for those Marvel rights. And in that way, well, Universal would need to occupy that Marvel Superhero Island with something else. And that's kind of the interesting thing about that portion of it, is because, well, DC was initially going to be the superhero island that was going to be featured. It was going to be all DC themed. There was going to be a Metropolis section and a Gotham section, and there was going to be a Superman ride and a Batman ride as well. And they would kind of like, the juxtaposition of styles would clash, and it'd be really kind of interesting, really, really cool. Unfortunately, that didn't actually come about, which was really unfortunate. But well, you have to remember that Six Flags is not doing well as a corporation. They're really kind of they're hemorrhaging cash at the moment. We've seen Magic Mountain in California, one of their premier parks, actually get reduced in terms of its operation. It's now no longer a 365 day a year operation. Now it only is open on the weekends primarily and so forth, and it's all seasonal, which is really, really weird for a Southern California park, but well, that's how it goes. And so I could see Salim Bosul, CEO of Six Flags, kind of saying, we have an asset that, Comcast wants in order to get some cash flow into here. Maybe we sell off these rights. Maybe it's not necessarily the IP or theme that brings people in. Maybe it's just the quality of the coasters themselves. De-theme those, sell those rights to Comcast for a chunk of change, and well, now there you go. That is kind of, that is all a possibility, given how well these corporations are doing with their assets and so forth.
And it's basically saying to have one deal to make another, because if that ends up freeing up some of the Marvel at Islands of Adventure, then that can give Disney to move in to make a deal to kind of get some more of those rights to kind of have it east of the Mississippi River.
That's what I mean. The Hulu rights, right?
Yeah.
Comcast has something that Disney has, or I'm sorry, Comcast has something that Disney wants, and Disney has something that Comcast wants. Can we make a deal here, folks? I think we absolutely can.
I think all those companies just need to sit down. Discovery, Warner, Comcast, Disney. Everyone just has to have just like a big round table discussion, and just kind of like play it like poker. It's like, I'll throw this in with that, and
we know that Warner Brothers, or at least the previous entity of it, right, had a relationship with Universal. It still has for Wizarding World of Harry Potter, because that was created in collaboration with Warner Brothers at that time. So there's some overlap here. There's some people know each other. Let's just say that.
Casual, what are your thoughts on this? On the idea that like kind of giving Disney the Marvel theme park rights in Florida and having DC move in? Would you be supportive of that, or?
I'd be completely supportive of it. It just is one of those things where I think it would have to be, like George said, everybody would have to come in, because you can't make one deal without having the other deal locked in.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we can't make this deal unless this deal's going in. So it would have to be everybody kind of come to the table and say, okay, we're gonna do this three-way trade kind of thing, and this is how it's gonna go.
Right.
But other than that, it would be a big gamble for any of those companies to take a chance on it without having the other deal in place already.
You would need assurances from across the board. Yeah,
That's the only reason I see that it would be kind of a little difficult for this to happen.
Now, Wizard, you're kind of like our Universal guy. Have you been hearing anything in terms of like any kind of movement with like, Universal trying to like maybe negotiate these Marvel rights? Are you hearing anything on that level? Even like rumor, like any slight rumor of it, or?
Nothing so far, but hopefully soon. As stated, whatchamacallit, I guess this is more for California, because, I'm California boys. Sorry, Florida. But,
No, you're not.
they can they can still do a part of that, in regards to California. If Universal still wants to approach Six Flags for the DC rights and just build a DC land in Hollywood, I'd be fine with that. Obviously, the Florida stuff, that's a little different. But, they can still do a third of that thing still happening a little faster than the selling of the other stuff, because that's the separate thing. They already have a relationship with Warner Brothers, Wizarding the World. Come on, Universal, you should approach Six Flags. Come on, Mr. Salim, give them a boatload or half a boatload of money for those rights. Take them back, and then build a proper DC land. I'm all for it. And here in Hollywood, and then you can just leave the Florida stuff in the way it is.
Now, I wanted to ask you fellas, because look, with the overall theme of this show today, it's about Epic Universe, right? And the whole impact of this new park coming in just a couple of years. What do you think? Okay, we were talking a little bit about like Disney's response being like a fifth park. We all kind of agree that's really not the right move. Do you guys feel that Disneyland in Anaheim will get a third park before Walt Disney World gets that fifth park? Or
Absolutely.
do you think?
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you think that, George?
3,000% chance, yes.
I just see that. I think. Well, let me reiterate that. I feel that DCA has to get an expansion before a third park, and the third park at Disneyland has to come before a fifth gate at Walt Disney World. So it's sort of kind of like how even all these companies, how one has to make a move first before the other one. It's like a domino effect.
Right.
So, but I feel like it, just speaking of just gate wise, not expansions, I feel like with Disneyland forward, still on the table moving forward, them having to create an Eastern Gateway to open up more land for them to expand. I feel like that Disney, again, kind of taking the spotlight off of Florida for right now, it would give them more probable cause to say, you know what, to kind of put more investment in. I feel like that a third gate would be more plausible for them at Disneyland than even think of a fifth gate for Walt Disney World.
Well, we talked a lot at the beginning of the show about how a fifth gate at Walt Disney World would cause cannibalization issues for Disney, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think there's a stronger chance of a third gate at Disneyland coming first, because you don't really have that same obstacle at Disneyland. It's much easier for a family to tack on an extra hotel stay for 3 parks than it is for that same family to figure out, Disney's 5 parks and 2 water parks and Universal's 3 parks.
But it's easier for them to travel between the 3 parks in one day. They'd theoretically be very close to each other.
Well, and then with me being a East Coast guy, I don't make it out to Disneyland as often as I do Walt Disney World. Well, this year it has did the little vice versa switch there, but even though I would still come on just for the 2 parks for Disneyland and DCA, but it would allow me to be able to stay even longer to do a cross country trip to say, you know what, I have another third park at Disney that, would again, may possibly convince me to stay on property or closer to property than to say, I'll just come out for a couple days. Because if you expand the Disneyland resort, and this was Disney's way of saying, you know what, we want to cater to the travelers, the family from Colorado over, just the local annual pass holders. How are you going to get more people to travel? Give them a reason to say, hey, you know what, if we're going to fly out cross country, give us something that will keep us there for an X amount of time.
Well, and the interesting thing too, bringing it back to Epic Universe, is Epic Universe is kind of like an experiment for the Disneyland Resort, because Epic Universe is several miles away from the current Universal Resort. Well, any third gate at Disneyland wouldn't be right next door to Disneyland and Disneyland and DCA. It would be probably a few miles out, probably be like in either the Toy Story lot or maybe the Anaheim Angels Stadium. So there would be a little travel time there, similar to like Epic Universe. If Universal is able to pull off that Epic Universe situation where it's separate to the main resort, Disney might see that and go, you know what? It worked for Universal in Florida. Maybe we can bring that here to California. But Dre, what are your thoughts on this whole thing about third gate and all that good stuff over in Anaheim?
Well, you can go ahead and share my screen there.
Absolutely.
This is the Disneyland Forward website, Project Possibilities. It's still here.
Yes.
It wouldn't necessarily have to be that far, and the Garden Walk could provide an excellent venue in which people could be transported from the Esplanade and through it and to a potentially a third gate. So it wouldn't have to be so far, but there's two things that are impediments right now to a third gate. Outside of, saturating the parks as they currently exist. We've talked about how, that's an imperative in Florida. It's very similar to Anaheim's situation. However, there are two main obstacles. One is parking. You have to overcome the parking situation. If you're going to add a third gate with the potential of adding 40,000 guests onto resort property, you need to have a place for everybody to park. But I think the other big thing, and a lot of people don't think about, is the Disneyland Resort is very, very lacking in hotel inventory. A massive necessity there for sure. And if you look at the Epic Universe project, what are they building? They're not just building Epic Universe. They're building a number of resort hotels that will be open before the park is even open. And so that's a big part of their master plan. Wizard, I think we've seen concepts for a hotel in Universal Studios Hollywood because they understand that is an imperative out there as well. In order to capture as much revenue from, I would say, any investment for the Disneyland Resort going forward, it has to be in the form of new hotel room lodging. I remember hearing back when California Adventure was coming up out of the ground, it was like, ooh, we got to get a hotel to open alongside that. Unfortunately, those things didn't pan out. But as far as the Disneyland Resort and what it needs and what it requires, it's not just a third gate in order to kind of get tourists coming over there, and I do think they would be more inclined to stay longer and so forth, George, like you said. And third gate, 3 gates versus 4 gates, that's a much closer calculation than it is right now with Walt Disney World. But they gotta have that hotel inventory. That has got to be a big part of this project going forward, I would think. And then we talk about, okay, can we expand our footprint and expand how many people that we have on here?
But I also feel like, too, when it comes to especially the Disneyland hotels, and I know Walt Disney World's hotel prices aren't, they could still come up to par to Disneyland. But I mean, a lot of the times the prices are so astronomical, where with Walt Disney World, even though that the value resort prices have gone up, they are still on the lower end than a deluxe or even sometimes moderate pricing could even be lower than the value. So I wonder if Disneyland could kind of incorporate that if they were to add in maybe another hotel, but maybe do it catering for the people who don't have, necessarily $700 a night to spend on property. And I think that hurts Disneyland as well, because that's where people stay at Airbnbs, or they stay at Good Neighbor hotels, or anything, because it's just so expensive to stay on Disneyland property.
Ideally, you would want to have multiple hotels at the various price points, but the land is so so expensive, and the demand would just be so insane. You it would necessitate a higher price point. And if you see the new resort developments in the Anaheim area,
Pricey.
it usually goes along that route, which is unfortunate. But even the Disneyland Hotel corridor, all of those, I believe, I was reading some reports previously. I think in 2022 they were all up 20-25% from their 2019 levels. So it's just going up and up.
Well, now one thing that's kind of a misconception when we talk about third parks in Anaheim is a lot of fans will come to you and say, well, you know what, OG, there's just no room. Where are you going to put it? You say Toy Story lot, and they're like, nah, that's too small. It really isn't. And I've had this graphic for a long time, but it's time to update the resume and kind of reshare it.
I remember that.
Right. So on the right is DCA. Now, not including the Grand Cali. So we're not even including the Grand Cali in this equation. And it's 73.30 acres. DCA is right now. Okay. To the left is the Toy Story parking lot. It's 74.68 acres. It's actually a little bit bigger than current DCA. So if Disney wants to, they can absolutely build a DCA sized park in that Toy Story lot. And I think, honestly, that's the long-term plan for that space. That's why Michael Eisner bought what was a strawberry field, bought all that land, was because of that reason. It's already zoned for theme park space. It's already zoned for it. That's why when you saw the Disneyland Forward proposal, they were trying to sell to the city the idea of zoning it for other things. That's why they made it into like a Disney Springs hotel resort thing, because they already have the zoning for theme park, right? So you don't need to, they didn't need to sell that to the city.
Correct.
So
Yes.
Right, Dre? So it's going to be a theme park eventually. Is it going to happen in 5 years? Absolutely not. It's probably 15, 20 years away, but this is the spot. If we're going to get a third park, this is, I think, where it's going to go. Casual, what are your thoughts overall? Third gate coming to Disneyland.
I think I'm with George that the DCA should probably be expanded first, but the third gate, I agree with you that the parking lot right there is fine. Toy Story parking lot would be perfect for it. The only thing is I really wish they could get those corner businesses to sell and just take up the whole corner.
Yes, come on.
Those are the things that just, you look at it, you just go, I get it, but gosh darn it. My OCD is just
you build it up initially, then you pressure them later. Casual.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Wizard, what are your thoughts? Third park, Toy Story lot, is it feasible? Would it ever happen? What are your thoughts?
Oh, it's happening by 2055. Mark my words. It's going to be right there in the Toy Story lot, and you'll be able to easily get to it via something. And then it's going to be great. I'll be going to 3 parks in one day, and it won't tire me out. It's going to be amazing, because at Disney World, you just can't do that. Ha ha, Florida.
And in 2055, I'll probably be dead. That's a long ways from now, but we'll see. Hopefully not. And John McKinney again with another donation to the channel. Thank you, John. We appreciate you so much, brother. Thank you.
Johnny
He says
boy.
here, yes, he says here, with the passing of Kevin Conroy, my favorite Batman. Yes, he was awesome. He was an awesome Batman. Should they recast the role or ADR like they are doing with James Earl Jones as Darth Vader? Now, for those that are not familiar with ADR, it's computer generated. They feed in someone's voice into this computer. I'm kind of really simplifying it, but they feed in, say, like James Earl Jones's voice into the computer, and then it kind of it can spit out new stuff in that person's voice. But actually, I think they might even use that for the new Walt Disney hologram AI thing over at the museum in Pennsylvania.
And
Same
they also
idea.
use that for Luke Skywalker as he's featured in Book of Boba Fett, for example, and so forth.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, John, I think I would rather have the ADR thing, because at the end of the day, even though it's going through a computer and like this AI, it's still that person's voice, right? It's like, out of that respect, I kind of would prefer that, but I don't know. The thing with DC too is that DC isn't really like there's been multiple Batmans. Like no one person has really kind of like owned that character. It's not like a Luke Skywalker where it's like that's Mark Hamill, right?
Mm.
Or even a James Earl Jones, that's Darth Vader, right? It's Batman.
It's more like a James Bond type figure where you have multiple throughout. Everybody has their favorite, but you have multiple, and the role passes from person to person.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if that's necessary to do the ADR with Kevin Conroy's voice. I love Kevin Conroy, and actually Batman, the animated series, to me is the definitive Batman. I loved that show as a kid. Loved it. But it's just different with DC and these characters, especially Batman, who's been so many people have been that character. But what do you think, George? Should they recast, or should they do like that AI voice thing like the Walt Disney?
Yeah, I'm I'm pretty much a fan of just the ADR myself.
Yeah.
If you were to kind of keep that that seasoned voice, if you will, of Kevin Conroy, because I too was a huge fan of his, and just a very distinct type of tone to his voice. It like really brought out, like, to say, when you hear a voice in your head and just the audio by itself, and it's like, oh well, that's Bugs Bunny, or that's Porky Pig, or that's Mickey Mouse, or that's Goofy, that's Roger Rabbit. For me, when I hear Kevin Conroy's voice, it's like, oh, that's Batman. And that's just how I resonated with him. So I am a fan of the ADR if they were to utilize it.
Cool. And casual, or sorry, Dre, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead. Casual. I've been speaking too much at this point. Go ahead.
No, I'll just throw. My thing is the ADR stuff, all the AI. It's really, really, really good, but not perfect.
Right.
That's my only problem. And when you get into taking somebody's voice, even if they nail the pitch and whatever, part of why you love him as Batman is because of what he brought to it, his personality, his mental take on the character, and doing that voice. You can't do that with AI. It's somebody else directing it. Whereas Kevin Conroy, he put himself into it, and you can't duplicate those kind of things. So even though it would still be his voice, it's somebody else basically feeding his voice into how they think the character should be. You know what I mean? So that to me is where it's like, I think it's getting scary good with all this AI stuff. But the human aspect of it is still missing.
Well said. Dre, what are your thoughts on ADR, Kevin Conroy?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a little bit more open to somebody replacing the role in that instance for the variety of reasons you bring up, OG, and you, George, of course. And yeah, casual. I mean, it's not perfect, right? And you can mask some of that stuff with Darth Vader's voice, for example, right? Because it's that's kind of consistent with how that voice is portrayed. And the James Earl Jones role is so iconic for Darth Vader. I'm only seeing one Darth Vader there, in terms of vocal inflection and so forth. So it'd be jarring to hear another person try to emulate James Earl Jones's performance rather than recreating it via AI ADR. But for the role of Batman, and there's so much content in which you have to produce for a role like that, you probably pass the baton on in that specific instance. So I think it is very much kind of a situational type deal, at least as it exists right now.
Now, can I ask you, fellas, staying on to the topic of the ADR, do you feel moving forward they would use that type of program for the use of Mickey Mouse? Because I know, like, they always say, Walt was the original voice from Mickey Mouse, it's passing the baton down. But for me anyways, as a kid growing up in the 90s, I got so used to Wayne Allwine's portrayal of the character. I mean, he's done it for, I believe it was like 32 years of the character, and nothing against Brett, who is now currently, well, one of the voices for Mickey Mouse anyways.
That's really weird there too.
I still can't get over the notion that I'm not hearing Wayne's voice, for the voice of Mickey. And then, as you had mentioned, Dre, there's two people doing the voice of Mickey. Would it be best to use the ADR technology just to kind of stick one tone voice for whoever is doing it, and it's like that's just the distinct version of Mickey Mouse?
I mean, they might. I don't know. I don't think they will, but I think what is a possibility though with Mickey is something like, for example, right now we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company. They have that technology. I could see them doing something like maybe kind of like a fun little, like, maybe like a 5-minute Mickey Mouse short, like in black and white. And they take Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse and they feed it through that ADR, and they do the whole voice of Mickey Mouse with Walt Disney, right? I can see them doing like a special 100th anniversary short with like that. But in terms of going forward forever, kind of like just utilizing Wayne or what have you, I don't think so. I think they're going to continue to kind of, unfortunately, because you're right, George. I mean, there is a consistency issue slightly, but it's there,
Well, especially with the new Mickey Mouse shorts, like that's like just completely different.
It's like Runaway Railway. I hit the track switch.
There we go. There's the
new. What do you think, Wizard?
I love that line.
Right,
Track switch.
Oh no.
What do you think, Mr. Wizard? Did you hit the track switch? No.
Man, well, I don't know who Kevin Conroy is, so I don't have any emotional attachment to him. But,
man.
I'd say in that instance, yeah, you probably should have recast him. But yeah, I feel like an ADR could work with something like, and obviously he's still alive, but with Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man, right? Let's say you have his AI voice come in a future Marvel movie. Obviously, he's still alive, but I feel like that's the instance where you can use ADR if he's dead or something, and he comes back with AI, and you just stick his voice to the ADR that way, because he's just Robert Downey Jr. and he's not like a person; he's just like an AI already. So ADR could work for Iron Man, but Kevin Conroy, sorry, buddy, you're gonna have to get replaced.
There you go. All right. Now down below, we got Marty Snyder. He says that Disneyland forward proposal to the city also has Garden Walk zoned for theme park, even though Disney doesn't own it yet. That's interesting. Dre, do you have that graphic? Did it show the various zoning on the graphic you had, or no?
Well, this is just the zoning as far as the proposal for Disneyland Forward. And what they own right now, I have to look at the Garden Walk zoning.
That's interesting. I did not know that, Marty. That's pretty significant if that's the case.
I would have to look into that a little bit because I did not hear that it was earmarked for theme park development use. From what I understand, it was only zoned for retail and dining. I'd have to actually take a look at that. That's a very interesting kind of thing there. We've seen Garden Walk come up for sale a couple times, and even Disney themselves pass over on it, which is that's really interesting because it would so nicely connect their land that they own to the north of the property in the form of the proposed parking structure, and to the south of the property for a proposed theme park. It's like, why can't we close the gap here? Why, it's open. Why not take that on? I'm really not too sure, but if it is actually zoned for theme park use already, well, that even creates even more questions now, doesn't it, as to why Disney doesn't own it just yet.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting, Marty. We'll look into that. We might do a future video on that because That's fascinating. Ryan Turner here says, I don't think Disney can do much with Toy Story until they figure out more parking. Is that a parking structure there as part of the third
Looks
gate?
like
Or
it is. Oh, sorry. I was
Oh,
saying,
no,
I'm looking at the zoning. It looks like it's part of the same zoning as Disneyland here.
Oh, can you share your screen, Ethan? We'll go ahead and
Sure, go ahead and share the screen, Ethan, because that's kind of hard to find there on,
Yeah.
on short
Sure.
notice.
Let's see. I think, let's say, so I'm looking here. Here's the zoning map. Disneyland's
Okay.
here in green. Is this the garden walk? If so, it's in
Yeah, the
that
garden
same
walk
green.
is to the north of that property. That's correct.
So yeah, it's the same zoning as Disney's stuff. Because here's toys. Or I think I don't know, but
That's Toy Story a lot down below where your
yes,
cursor is right now. Then where your cursor is right now is where garden walk is currently.
yeah, so same zoning. So it is zoned for theme park.
What? That's interesting. But
And
I
that
didn't know.
that's a bizarre type of shaped area to actually be zoned for theme park. That's interesting.
that isn't. Yeah, that's very weird.
Is it theme park specifically, or is it mixed use?
Let's see. Let's see. Let's see.
Let's go to the
This is
key here.
the green color. So I sent you guys a link. Let's look. Remember that green color? Hold on. Whoop,
Oh yeah.
boom,
It says
boom.
open space.
Open space.
Well, no, there's multiple.
Oh, there's
greens.
more.
It's
geez.
over here to the side. It's this one. Specific plan. Oh, hold on.
Just a
It's
little bit
this
over.
one. It's zoned as the Disneyland Resort. This guy.
What?
The Disneyland Resort. SP92-1
And the red, the one below it.
is the Anaheim Resort.
Okay. So
Yeah, this is this green color right here.
And that's a distinct difference there because Anaheim Resort is not necessarily Disney. That's like the bus stops around the area and the
But
gas
also,
station.
I mean, if you look at it, I like the Disneyland Hotel and that property and so forth. That's also
Green.
zoned as Disneyland Resort.
Except
So,
right here, this is Pixar Pier right here. This little blob.
I believe so. Yeah.
No, that's the Pixar hotel. That little red
Yeah,
square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Pixar.
Oh, yeah.
Pixar. Yeah.
Anaheim, and the rest is even Toy Story. But yeah, looks like Garden Walk. It's in here. It's in there.
That's
Uh-huh.
zoned as part of the
fascinating.
Disneyland Resort already.
That's interesting.
That's weird though.
And
Why would they
do
do
they
that?
own
They
that
don't
green
own it.
spot next to it that runs along Harbor right there? That corner?
Oh, this right here.
No, up next to Garden Walk, like
Up
toward
next
the
to
top
Garden
of it.
Walk.
This one.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's all that?
What would that be?
isn't that? Let's
That's like
see.
a
That's
couple of hotels. That's like
that-
the Anaheim Hotel.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you zoom that in?
yeah. Someone pop in the Google map next to this.
Yeah, the corner of Disney Way and Harbor, I believe that's the Anaheim Hotel right there.
Give me a second. I'm going.
This is fascinating. We're doing some detective work
We're
right
doing
now.
detective work here.
Riveting content.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What?
So it's just below Disney Way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
That's the, I guess, it's the Pizza Press, the Anaheim Hotel,
oh yeah, over here.
Harbor
Yeah.
Marketplace.
Yeah.
That's what that is right now. That is as it exists today.
That's
But
interesting.
yeah, then the Garden Walk is all in that.
Yeah, right there.
Now Marty
It's
says he follows up.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Marty's saying maybe it was an attempt to see if they could move forward with buying it. So
The Suncoast.
That's what I'm confused at. If they don't already own it, but yet it's zoned as for Disney, unless this is reading as like a hypothetical. If Disney were to buy it, it is zoned
Right.
for theme parks.
So the distinction between the Disneyland Resort and the Anaheim Resort in this specific map doesn't necessarily deal with ownership or for its usage. It's the level and quality at which you have to maintain these properties. So Disneyland Resort is a higher standard than the Anaheim Resort. Does that make sense?
oh, that's interesting.
Okay,
That explains the Pixar Pier Hotel.
Correct. That's funny, Casual. That is funny.
Yeah, that is.
Other parts of the Disneyland Resort, as this map implies, is the Manchester parking area and the Suncoast Park Hotel Anaheim and the Element Anaheim Resort Convention Center. So those are included as well. And then looks like the entrance portal to the Toy Story lot. So as far as that map details, that's the level of quality at which they have to be maintained.
That's fascinating.
That
Well, and
makes
it's weird
sense,
to me too that like, okay, so Garden Walk is at quality level, but then the businesses on Harbor, which butt up against the Disneyland Resort as well, that they don't.
They were probably omitted.
And while
Because,
we have this up,
they didn't want to be held to that high standard. Go ahead, George.
Right.
no, I was going to say, and while we have this up, can we get a clear understanding that obviously before even another third gate at Disneyland were to be, they would have to put in the Eastern Gateway. So with this map, where would the gateway?
The Eastern Gateway is over here. So
somewhere.
I'll show you. He'll show you on his, and I'll show you on mine. So you see that green at the top of Disney Way?
Right.
Eastern Gateway is technically above that.
Okay.
Yeah,
In the red. So you'll see there's the I think the MCML building or whatever. What is that building called again? I don't know. It's like an immigration office, like literally.
Yeah.
So you can see it right here. So this is the building that Disney does not own. They own both lots to the north and the south. This is a little bit of an old map. And then they demolished the what was it?
Carousel Inn, I think.
Carousel.
The carousel, yeah, the carousel inn. So that's one of these along here, and that's what would have made the Eastern Gateway back in the day. And so you see this MCML lot here, George.
Right.
That's where that structure was going to go.
So I assume that if they move along with the Eastern Gate project, or if they even rename it or what have you, it would still be along those same plans.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And the idea would be to annex, or to remove the bus depot from this location as it exists alongside Harbor. Make that more DCA theme park space.
And look how huge that is. I mean, like
it's significant, yeah.
Right? That's a big amount of space. DCA is right there below it. Right. I mean, that's several acres.
Stage 17 as it kind of exists next to it, Hyperion as it exists next to it. You can see the scale when comparing these structures. It is you
could probably get
large
half
area.
of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway there.
Oh, easily, yeah.
But the idea would be eventually to build not even just one parking structure, but two, and that way you would have enough theme park parking in order to facilitate a third gate, which would be here. And I think at build out right now, I'd have to look at it, but I think at build out as it exists today, I think we're talking about 8,000 spaces here, 7,000, somewhere around there. So you'd have to make up for that lost inventory as well. So that's kind of what's going on there. But Wizard, I do appreciate you bringing that up on such short notice. Those things are surprisingly very hard to find.
That's fascinating.
Wizardry.
Yes. Now since we have the map up and everything,
Sure.
It's kind of fun to speculate. Like, how do you think they would work? Because look, the harbor boulevard leeches, I mean, businesses were concerned that they weren't going to get the free ride anymore with that bridge that was going to go over, right? Like the traffic, it was going to hurt their business. How do you think Disney would get around all that? Like, if it was to go forward, like, you think they would scrap the bridge and work something else out, or how would they even do this?
Well, that was my question. Would it still be in the same format as the original intent was going to be, or would it be something different?
They seem pretty hell bent on that bridge, but now I don't know if maybe they've loosened up. Go ahead, Dre. I'm sorry.
The bridge has to be part of it. Mm-hmm. You can't have 10,000 or 15,000 worth of cars, people in those cars, trek across harbor. There's just no way. The bridge has to be a part of this, if only for the residents of Anaheim alone, right? I think what changes is where that security bubble is placed, because the main problem, and I'll use this with the map, As part of Eastern Gateway, the security bubble would have been just beyond the carousel. It would have been roughly in the area. You see this kind of along this horizontal plane of parking lot. Do you see that there? Kind of above the what is it? I'll just zoom in here. Along here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Around here is where the security bubble would have been. And that would have accepted traffic not only from the parking structure itself, but also the new bus drop-off, which would have been located within this area. Okay, and then you would have gone across the bridge, and the bridge would have taken you down to the Esplanade on the other side of Harbor. The problem with that is all of that traffic that would usually provide this kind of thoroughfare for these businesses would be bypassed. You'd have to walk around some of this in order to get into that security bubble, and then your business would be bypassed via that bridge because people were locked in at that point. I think the thing that would have to change is a moving of that security bubble to the other side of Harbor and allow that bridge to be traversed by foot traffic alongside Harbor, because previously it would not be. I think that is the key issue there, and it would get around the businesses mounting an offensive against Disney.
That's such an easy switch. You just move it over. Just do it.
Yeah, and I actually have another idea too in terms of this, because the businesses are just worried about losing business, right? Well, there's like a McDonald's there. There's an IHOP. What if Disney worked out a deal with these businesses where, okay, if you let us buy your land, we'll give you a sweetheart deal somewhere in the resort. For example, they'll have like maybe like a high-end McDonald's at downtown Disney or something. I mean, at that point, would McDonald's necessarily care that it's losing Harbor Boulevard? Now you're in the resort. You're probably going to make even more money. Ask Starbucks what kind of business they do in that resort.
Interesting. It's interesting to bring up because there was a concept not too long ago of having a downtown Disney West along with a downtown Disney East. Now the Eastern Gateway didn't include that, but you could possibly maybe bump out the pathway that was supposed to be just blank and provide shops and retail alongside that corridor.
Right.
So there are ideas here, and eventually this will happen. It's just what form will it take? I don't know if landowners alongside Harbor would be too enticed about the prospect of becoming renters on Disney property. But again, I think there are options here, and I think there were viable solutions, but Disney just simply didn't explore them for whatever the case.
Now, for a construction process, how would people then get to and from the resort if they're staying off property while in the midst of all this being rerouted? So while the bridge is being built, would anything have to be blocked off, or you would have to go in even another way while things are being blocked off, or that won't have any
so issues? I think the plan was to build the bridge first, okay. Yeah, I think the plan was to build the bridge first, build the structure and the bus depot alongside it. As soon as that bus depot was open, have people use that. That would also provide a bigger drop-off area for Uber. Actually, casual. I think we experienced this together. The 15-minute lot as it exists today is very inadequate for today's purposes. So that new bus drop-off would also have included a roundabout that would have included Uber and Lyft and so forth. You build that, have everybody transfer over there. You take down the bus depot now that you have a replacement for that, and then eventually the parking structure is finished and then you have a bridge and all that. So that's kind of how it was planned to go. It's interesting. Let me see if I can look it up here. The Disneyland Eastern Gateway, because it kind of I think it's a good thing to go over for our audience. This is all riveting content, guys. I do appreciate you sticking with us here. Yeah. So you can see that. And how that was supposed to be. Okay, yeah. So I remember this a little bit wrong. The bus depot would have taken up all of the space north of the immigration center. The parking structure would have been built south of it. But you can see kind of what they had there. That transportation facility that you see on the upper right, that would be completed first. Then you would take down the existing transportation center as it exists on the other side of the harbor, and that way, that's how that traffic would go. There should be very little impediment to Anaheim residents, Anaheim visitors, etc.
That's a lot of walking from that parking structure.
Yes, and they were going to do moving walkways, just like Disneyland Paris, but they cut that out. They were absolutely going to do moving walkways. And here's the thing. See, I don't think a lot of people know about this. When the master plan was developed for Westcott, it actually included this site. Here we go. Let me see if I can... Nope, that's not it. Where is it? No, it's not going to be here. Okay, that's good stuff there. See if I can open this up. No. Why do you do this? Okay. Can you see here? I don't know. Can you see at all? Wow, that's not getting any better. Okay. This is great. I'm glad I'm doing this live, guys. Thank you. Why?
Oh man, why won't it let?
Anyway, it's very hard to see, and I do apologize. I wish I could make this larger or whatever.
I can read People Mover over on that left side, though.
Yeah, I see
you
the
can.
mover.
Okay.
Right
Yeah.
side.
So let me see.
Can you say? Why don't you save the image and then open it?
Open it.
Like
Well, you
know
could
what I'm
do
saying?
View Image in its own tab, right?
Yeah. Try that. Man, looking at the plans for Westcott makes me so upset because like it was just such an awesome proposal.
That's your park, OG. It's your park, and it's not even a park yet.
I know.
And I say yet because anything can happen.
Yes. So you're telling me
so-
There we go.
I know. So, the original plan was to have People Movers take you from the parking structure that would be the Mickey and Friends and the Pixar parking structure as it exists today, take you over to Disneyland Plaza, not the Esplanade, Disneyland Plaza, and then the same functionality would exist over on the eastern side as well. You would have a People Mover that would take you from, and by the way, you can see right there. See if you can see my cursor. No, you can't. Okay. To the adjacent to Disneyland Plaza on the right side. Do you see that moving sidewalk?
Yeah.
Right? And the moving sidewalks would take you from the far ends of those parking structures and towards the People Mover, which would take you to Disneyland Plaza. And that would be on both sides right there. And the monorail would have taken you, the route was to be changed. It wasn't changed for DCA, but it would have taken you to the hotel district on the other side as well. So
4 stations.
yeah, 4 stations. This was an absolutely ambitious plan. Wish they would have gone forward with it, but they were looking to replicate at least some of that with the Eastern Gateway project before. Well, that didn't happen either.
Well, and it just goes to show you, Andre, like you bring up a great point. They kind of replicated that Westcott proposal with the Eastern Gateway. Ideas never really die at Disney, right? I mean, they dusted those plans off and they're like, okay, let's try this, right? I don't know.
But this is an old concept, OG. Westcott can never happen. That's like putting a Star Wars land in the back of Disneyland Park. I mean, that's just redundant.
It's impossible. It's impossible. You have no idea how many people like in like the early 2000s said it's impossible to expand back there because there's backstage buildings. It's just so hilarious. I remember this stuff. I've been in the community a long time, and it's just funny.
There was a video that went through what was supposed to be this. As well.
Oh yeah.
You remember this?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
This video.
Fresh baked.
Perfect. We'll give credit for sure. This is all supposed to happen, guys. I mean, a lot of people they forget their Disney history, but this was all, and you could see how it kind of rounds in here. That was the only entrance to this side, and it would have bypassed all of those businesses to the north of, I think, Disney Way. So it was pretty extensive, but you can see how far, if you wanted to, you could walk to get in here.
Hey, look, there's casual.
Quick side note.
This is the security bubble, right?
Quick side note. That is exactly how it feels when you're following Vash through Disneyland.
Yeah. We're fast, George.
You got to keep up. You got to keep up.
Yes.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Transportation center, which would have had Uber and all this kind of stuff.
Wow.
And this is the security checkpoint here that would have been permanent.
Now, if they were going to have everybody walk all that distance right along the back edge of those hotels and everything, couldn't they just flip that to be, hey, we'll give you guys, we'll help you turn that into your front-facing facade?
Yeah.
I mean, I know some of the restaurants and stuff are on the harbor side, so that makes it a little difficult.
So there was, I did hear about some plans, actually, Casual, that would have change. You would have had like a kind of a dual entrance kind of thing for some of those businesses, but not all of those could incur that cost. This was the bridge over harbor here.
Looks like the downtown Disney Bridge, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it very similar. Very similar. It would have taken from the motifs as established back in the 1990s and early 2000s. So
I'm always impressed with the downtown Disney Bridge because you don't even realize that you're going over the cars.
Oh,
isn't that crazy?
It's wild. Excellent design work there. I mean, whatever they did to buffer that sound, you really feel it actually is pretty immersive.
And yeah, the big thing, you would have seen the monorail be rerouted, which would be the first time that would have been done since 1995. Interestingly enough, and then you would have seen that area completely open up for DCA space. So, yeah, that is going to happen eventually, and that's kind of why it's good to go over this, because some people forget, and the reason why this is good to go over now is because people wonder, like, what's going on with Hollywoodland. Part of the thing that's holding back Hollywoodland is Eastern Gateway, right?
Yes.
If you could potentially have more room behind those facades, why would you develop anything now without knowing what that master plan would be? Some of this stuff is predicated on things that, are not within Disney's control. So that's what we have to parse out.
So basically, Florida. This is what you have to look forward to.
Exactly.
Exactly what I was
All
thinking.
of this stuff, Florida. BJ Vincent.
Florida.
BJ Vincent here, a friend of the channel. Thank you so much, BJ. We appreciate you as always, sir. $5 donation to the channel. Thank you. He says here, I am concerned with Bob Iger's return as CEO ending on December 31st, 2024. I hope these Disneyland Resort expansions will be implemented before he leaves. You know what, BJ? I wouldn't be too concerned, because third park isn't going to happen. I mean, if you're referring to a third park, yes, that's not going to happen. But like we said earlier in the show, Iger is very bullish on Anaheim. Very bullish. I wouldn't shed any tears for our resort. We've talked a lot on the channel about that Pandora thing that was announced at the shareholder meeting. That's going to be a big deal. I know a lot of fans are kind of blowing that off to be like some sort of like meet and greet that they're going to throw into the ESPN Zone building or something. No, he would not have announced that at that shareholder meeting with so much writing on it right now. All eyes are on him, and he's going to sit there and announce a meet and greet. He would be he'd be a laughing stock. Okay. They are building a significant Pandora, whether attraction, land, whatever, at Disneyland. So Disneyland's going to get some love before he leaves for sure. It's already been announced, really. He already announced Pandora. So I wouldn't be too worried, BJ. Iger is very, very pro Anaheim or Disneyland Resort.
And you have to remember too, people, I heard it. Even Dude, Trust Me, Bro was kind of like, don't expect much. And I'm like,
About Pandora, he said that.
Yeah, he
Really?
said yes. Okay, this is news. Okay, so Dude, Trust Me, Bro was like,
He also doesn't like Pandora.
well, yes. So there's a bias there for sure. There's a bias for sure, and you have to parse that stuff out sometimes, right? But they were just like, it's just don't quite see it. Where would you put it? All of that, and here's the thing. Here's what I want to make clear. Okay, Iger's language is through the lens of Hollywood, right? Avatar, with 2 films, we're talking almost $5 billion, right? With 2 films, all has made just as much for this franchise as Star Wars with 5 films, okay? And look at what we got for Star Wars. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the largest themed land ever built, right? With 2 amazing attractions.
Oh, crap, Avatar's screwed.
So we have at least 3 films coming out from the Avatar franchise. 3 and 4 have already been filmed, and post-processing is already being applied to those. And then 5 is in production right now. Okay? So we have at least 3 more films. Okay. The potential is that this is going to be, maybe $1 billion each film at least, right? So we're talking like an $8 billion franchise. Do we really think that the only presence we'll get at Disneyland, this premier park, at least in Iger's, perspective, are we really thinking that we're only going to get a meet and greet for this?
And not to mentioning it at a quarterly earnings, the first quarterly earnings that Iger is back, that he's going to bluntly say Avatar is coming to Disneyland. This is not going to be anything short on an entire land. Plus, James Cameron attached to this thing. When you have Avatar, you're not just buying into Avatar. You're buying into James Cameron.
And James Cameron is a stickler for sure. Go ahead, OG.
He is, absolutely. And you also have to look. He mentioned Pandora and Animal Kingdom and Galaxy's Edge all in the same breath of this new Pandora experience coming to Disneyland. He's obviously equating this thing we're getting in Disneyland with the Pandora in Florida and Galaxy's Edge. Okay. I mean, it was all in the same breath. I mean, he's telling you right there what to expect, So
yes.
And Avatar, the films are worldwide phenomenons. It's not just a United States or English speaking. It is anywhere. It is all over the world. They love those movies.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why they wanted to bring Avatar all over the world when that deal was announced back in 2011. So, this would be consistent with that vision that the company had for this franchise going forward. And now that they have been officially added into the fold via the 20th Century Fox purchase, expect that to be leveraged as much as possible. Oh, go Ola. Do you regularly look at for permits filed by Disney in Anaheim? Actually, we do on occasion, as it makes the news.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely do. I mean, because I think we did a few shows actually on that those Spider-Man patents or whatever, that with the flying vehicles that we were supposed to get for web slingers, and we talked about that, and then we ended up getting the Midway Mania toasters. Say Levy.
We do. It's whenever we get our hands on.
Marty Snyder says, I don't know, Avatar experience.
Avatar experience.
Avatar is what was said. Hope I'm wrong for sure. See, but I think Marty, fans are focusing too much on that word experience. Like, just because he said experience, and just because there's an Avatar experience, I think it's like what is that? Like some kind of like traveling show thing?
There's a setup in Singapore that utilizes, I think, like
there's Banshee.
There's a life-size Banshee that's an audio animatronic Ikron, right? That's there, but it's very screen-based. There's some statuettes of Na'vi there. it's not super impressive. And yes, could they transport that to Anaheim? I mean, they could, right? And I understand people are like, well, he didn't say expansion. I get it. But OG, you just pointed out, he's talking about, Iger is talking about this in the context of Pandora at Disney's Animal Kingdom and how an expansion of capacity growth for the theme parks is a good thing to shareholders, right?
Right.
That's telling you that this is going to be a capacity puller and expander. It's like, let's kind of, I mean, a walkthrough exhibit like this doesn't do that for Disneyland.
And don't forget,
exactly.
we don't know what's going on in R&D. They could be doing something completely new, and kind of like when, Indiana Jones opened, everything said, it does this, it does this. It's unlike anything you've ever experienced.
Correct.
And that's what it was. When you went on it, it's like, is it a roller coaster? No. Is it a dark ride? No. Is it a motion simulator? Kinda. So it was this weird hybrid of all these different aspects of themed entertainment.
Right.
Perhaps they're working on something like that. And they're kind of like, we think we've got a really big thing. We don't know how to describe it quite yet. So we're just going to call it an experience.
And I think Disney is going to want to move forward with the technological experiences, because Pandora opened at Animal Kingdom back in 2017, and we're now in 2023, not knowing when they're going to make the announcement, how long it's going to take to build, and when it officially opens. They're not going to want just a mirror experience that was made back in 2017. They're going to utilize newer kind of technology based off of the newer upcoming films that are going to be coming out.
And if they were to announce something right now and get building on something right now, you're talking about 4 years probably until it opens. Now you're talking about 10 years from Pandora. They want to showcase something new. Go ahead, OG. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and Dre, we've talked about it so much, both on camera, off camera. You bring up a fantastic point. One of the biggest criticisms levied towards Bob Iger is the $70 billion price tag for Fox. He's going to do everything he can to justify that buy. So he's gonna say, look, you know what, we have 2 expansions. We got Animal Kingdom, and we have Anaheim now, right? And he's gonna want to justify that buy somehow. What better way to do that than to utilize it in your parks, and maybe even picking someone from Fox, maybe like a Dana Walden, hypothetical, of course, as your next CEO, right? Hey, look, we not only did we get these great theme park lands and these billion-dollar movies, but we also got our next CEO, Dana Walden, right? He's really gonna want to capitalize on that. Iger is a legacy guy, a total legacy guy. He wants to go out looking like his shit don't stink. Okay, he's gonna make sure everyone knows this Fox thing was well worth it. I guarantee it.
Well, if he's been inside any of the Disneyland restrooms, trust me, his shit stinks.
And Dreamy X, cool profile pic, Dreamy X. I'm digging that, man. It's pretty awesome. It's kind of rock and roll, baby.
It's very.
It says here, regarding Epic Universe, Walt Disney World does not need another gate to respond. What Walt Disney World needs is more rides, and especially more capacity, especially to the non-Magic Kingdom parks. Yeah, Dreamy, I don't know if you were here earlier in the live show, but we talked about that. They have to bulk up the parks they currently have. I mean, that's priority number one.
Yep. They have to do that, and maybe that's something that DeSantis himself knows about. It's going to be interesting to see, what this board actually ultimately decides. Oh.
Yeah.
Ace says I would change the location of the DVC lounge to the theater. Honey,
I Shrunk the Audience.
Right, and use the motorboat to intervention areas and a major re-theme, which would include Avatar. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'd like to get something back into the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, or Magic Eye Theater. Yeah. I'd like to get something back in there. Do we need a DVC lounge in the parks right now? Not
yes,
not
that is the most
sure.
important investment of our lifetimes. This DVC lounge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, look. we don't need to entice new DVC sales for Disneyland Resort. Like when those DVCs eventually go on sale, which I think there is some California regulation that says that hotel that's being built adjacent to Disneyland Hotel has to be open to the public for a certain amount of time before it can be sold. It's weird. Anyway, when that opens for DVC sales, it will sell out immediately. Like, you don't need enticement for DVC sales at Disneyland Resort as it exists.
Like those rooms look freaking gorgeous. The artwork for that DVC tower, I was like, oh my god, it's gonna make the rest of the hotel look like dog poop.
that three level suite with the indoor outdoor fireplace. That's pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie. But there are some nice aspects to it, let's say. But I mean, you know, can we have a DVC lounge there? Can we have a DVC lounge in places which don't occupy prime real estate that we need for theme park development? I think we can. So ultimately, that's where I would go. But yes, I would agree with you, Ace. If you wanted to include the Innovations building in that, it's one way you can go.
Yeah, and then Marty says here, so Avatar before Avengers e-ticket. See, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that is tough.
Yes.
I don't really know. I see the thing is that I hope not, because Disneyland doesn't really look. I want Pandora for sure. I want it, but it doesn't really need it right now. Like we just got Galaxy's Edge and we just got Mickey and Minnie. DCA needs the love first.
Okay,
they should definitely prioritize.
Now, do you think, now this may be a little bit far-fetched, but with Ryan Turner mentioned about down below from Marty, Disneyland Resort also needs to do something for capacity with the Olympics coming.
Yeah, that's what we referred to earlier.
So, but I'm wondering, do you think Disney can kind of have the ambitious task of tackling both, one for Disneyland, one for DCA, on it, like a back-to-back?
Of course they would. Yeah, like simultaneously.
I was gonna say something like that, and I was like, no, that's like a universal thing. So I was like,
that's pretty good, Wizard. Pretty good.
You know, but I think that you could do that because I think the Pandora, whatever they're building with Avatar, like we said, it's gonna be significant. That's gonna be a multi-year thing that's gonna be stretched out. Avengers is just one attraction, right? So I think you can kind of work both of them simultaneously. The Avatar thing is going to go over multiple fiscal periods and what have you. So I think
attraction that was announced, when was it? 2017, 2019.
I was going to say, I think Disney has a little bit of a track record of extending single attractions across several financial quarters, years.
Yes.
Look, the only thing preventing Disney from doing anything it wants to
is themselves.
That's it, right? In the late 80s, early 90s, in the span of just 27 months, you got the Grand Floridian, Caribbean Beach Phase 1, Disney's MGM Studios, Pleasure Island, Typhoon Lagoon, Swan and Dolphin, Yacht and Beach Club. 27 months, you got all of those things, okay?
Yep.
But
if they want to build two attractions simultaneously, they absolutely can.
No, that was under the Eisner era.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's right. So that's what I'm saying. So even though Eisner, at the very end, obviously because what happened with Frank Wells and what have you, but that's where he kind of had that structure to work within the parks.
Well, Pandora even in the recent timeline, right?
Yeah, recently.
Pandora broke ground, I want to say 2013, probably 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. Okay. All right.
2013.
Because it was announced in 2011. Okay. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was announced at the 2015 Expo, and that started in 2016. Pandora at Disney's Animal Kingdom opens in 2017, right? So there was some overlap where both of them were in construction.
Right. Yeah, they can do things fast. I mean, look, a DCA 2.0, that was a lot of things done in like 5 or so years.
Well, and that was done during a really, it wasn't the economy. Yeah, the Great Recession was going on. And credit to Bob Iger, he pushed through, even though the recession was in the toilet at that time, he understood that this investment at DCA was important and that by the time these things open, it's going to be, this expansion will produce some fruit for us, Yeah. So we're lucky that we have him as CEO again. because he understands that it's not Bob Chapek. He understands you got to invest now to make money tomorrow.
But even right now, this second, they're busy quickly smashing up Splash Mountain in Disney World pretty quickly. They can do that really fast. I'm sure they can do anything else really quickly. San Francisco is going pretty decently. They can do it if they want to.
They could do it. Just not too fast, because then you might get a big hole inside the building like you do.
Might get a big hole.
We're getting blizzards now here in Southern California, so you never know what might happen.
Lightning.
Casual, you're going to say something?
Mocha Bean put a thing at perhaps something for the World Cup for 2026 and then the Olympics.
Correct.
That would make sense to do if they start, they make a quick announcement for the Avengers e-ticket very soon. You could have that for 2026, as well as, in next year announce Avatar. Get started on that.
But forget the announcements. Just start building it already.
Yes,
take
exactly.
a universal approach. Just start building it. Announce it 6 months before it opens. I just do it.
And that's why I said earlier, there's a lot of there's a lot of driving motivations to switch your investment from Florida to California with those events being the Olympics and the World Cup. But Vampire Chocobo says something very, very interesting here. Mm-hmm. Are the huge Disney Plus losses causing Disney not to increase its capital expenditures, or the current hard lining with the union employees? Not so much the unions, capital expenditures as being impacted by Disney Plus losses. Absolutely, you have to think. Disney company has lost $12 billion collectively over the time that they've owned and operated in Disney Plus. From their purchase of the Major League Baseball technology acquisition. Do you know what I'm talking about, Casual? The company that they bought for the infrastructure for Disney Plus, and they built on top of that, right? All of those investments and all of those losses, we're talking about $12 billion, okay? Remember, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was $1 billion each. Imagine what we could have gotten in the parks had we not incurred those heavy losses. And that's outside of the other losses that we've been incurring on the studio side of things. But go ahead, Casual.
And then you look at Disney Plus right now. Mando just premiered. Mm-hmm. Where was the hype? Where is the hype? I don't even see any hate posts for it. It's like there's hardly anybody talking about it, and that's one of their flagship, best reviewed, best loved series, and it doesn't feel like it's doing anything.
I've seen a lot of it, but I follow a lot of Star Wars accounts.
I'm kind of in between there. To Casual's credit,
I haven't seen much of it. I haven't seen about 4 posts. I think I've made more posts than I've seen.
Well, and to think also too, for how many subscribers that they lost, that could have been a big chunk of the people that would hype up of how they did Mando season 1 and 2. And it's like, with each loss of money, with each loss of subscriber, no matter what gets put out there, I really think the fans are kind of like losing this glimmer of hope to say, is this going to be just another show that's just put on there just to add content?
Weren't the losses though with mostly with the Hotstar, like the Indian stuff?
That's true. I mean,
losses to subscribers, but not losses in revenue.
Right.
Yeah,
the subscribers overseas. Yeah. Well, the problem is Hollywood in general is going to have to figure out the streaming thing, because you have a flat rate of $8, $9 a month, and then you have this content that is very expensive, especially Disney. When you have a Star Wars anything is going to cost you an arm and a leg. Marvel, very expensive properties. You can't throw it on a streaming service and have it like a all you can eat buffet, right? So. And this isn't just a Disney problem. I mean, Warner Brothers is going through it too. I mean, they're all are. Paramount, Universal, they're all going through it. They're going to have to figure out a way to make this stuff profitable. And they're probably going to have to go back to basics. They're probably going to have to just kind of.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They're going to have to get somebody who knows how to write a story that doesn't involve all the flash and the bang, all that crazy stuff. It's like, just give us good characters, give us a great story. Let us learn to love, the characters that you're putting on screen. I don't care about all the other stuff. It doesn't have to have all the bells and whistles and all the latest technology and whatever. Just give me a good story. And that's, I think, where they're missing it so bad.
It has to be more economical. It has to be more economical. We can't just have these big swings and big misses. We really have to go back to this kind of, as you said earlier, casual with the Avatar storyline, right? We have something that plays internationally. We have something that plays to multiple cultures, multiple languages, multiple people, so forth. We have to get back to that 4-quadrant storytelling, but do it at a reasonable cost and
or at the very least, if you're going to do these things, do it so that, I mean, who's buying merch? I was talking about it today, and I was like, these shows that Disney is producing, part of what makes them so amazing and why we got Disneyland and why it all works is because people want the toys, they want the shirts, they want the lounge fly.
Yeah.
Not the newer franchises, it's like they're not producing anything new that people are really wanting. It's mainly Grogu.
Well, and look how they're even producing Mando and Grogu even in the parks. Like they just announced recently that we're getting them both at Walt Disney World, like how they currently
share
are
my screen, OG,
in
show that.
in Disneyland. However, they're just walking around, which is great, which is fine. But is it enough to sustain an audience to say, you know what, I want to continue on, like have something more of a storyline built in Galaxy's Edge, add them to the Star Cruiser? That's another thing that's hurting right now is because of the lack of refining and keeping a structured storyline within Star Wars, and that's where they have to break out of.
Back in the day, Disney produced the Davy Crockett franchise, the Davy Crockett series, and that was a phenomenon. To Casual's point, one of the reasons why we even got Disneyland in the first place is because of the $1 billion of the coonskin caps that they actually sold back in the day. I mean, it was a gold mine for the company, and that was one of their first forays into television itself. Disney can do those things, and they can't. I mean, that's the kind of the value of what Disney actually does. That they're not only to. It's not only about creating amazing stories or amazing shows, but actually leveraging them and capitalizing on them through theme park attractions, merchandise, etc. But if people don't emotionally connect with their characters or storylines, well, then all that goes out the window. So that is absolutely right, Casual. I mean, it's a revolving synergistic flywheel, but it only turns if people are actually interested in the product.
And Marty Snyder, very generous, Marty. Thank you so much, brother, for the $10 donation to the channel. Says thanks for all the entertainment, guys. Thank you, Marty. We appreciate you, brother, and we have fun doing this. You know, we even when we're not recording, we're all on the phone talking about this stuff. It's kind of funny.
Every day.
It's great. You know, it's great. It's great. And then Elizabeth Gates says another reason to focus on California is that Universal is taking up a lot of construction workers in Florida. That might be the case, but I mean, is there a finite amount? I mean, isn't there something to be said about creating jobs? I don't know.
To be fair, Elizabeth actually is right about this. They not only compete for workers, but they compete for construction people as well. And that is one of the reasons that Disney has been impacted as much as it has when it comes to the Epcot or Tron projects. Yes, jobs are created, which helps, which is why, as we'll get into the RCID video, one of the reasons why DeSantis might not go super hard into Disney is because, well, those construction workers and so forth, those unions, well, they donate as well, right? And so you want to keep that pipeline going.
But Vash, I was told this wasn't about the donations. I was taught this is about protecting our children. Wait, what's going on, man? Wait, it is about donations?
Constituents have a voice as well, don't they?
Okay. Elizabeth follows up to subscribers they lost for Hot Start, not domestically. Yeah, but Dre's right though. The revenue though was from a broader thing than just that. The subscribers are, you're absolutely right, Elizabeth.
And the thing I bring out about that, they lost subscribers. Now, again, they should have grown subscribers. So the delta is much greater.
That's what I was saying. They're losing instead of gaining. So for the people that they lost, it's not giving up that hype that we used to have for season 1 and season 2 of Mando, because it was that hype growing. But now that it just keeps on diminishing, it's like then the oomph for it is not there.
Probably a lot of that was from the November deal, right? The 3-year deal came up in Q1,
Oh, yeah.
right? It came up. So that's probably also why they lost subscribers and did not gain.
Well, they did gain one subscriber thanks to a
Oh.
Christmas present from a friend. So
Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Now let's see how many times you use it.
I was going to say, I think I've watched two things. I started the Imagineering story, and I watched I had Fantasia 2000 playing while I was working once.
Oh, 2000, Fantasia 2000 is a gorgeous movie. I love that.
I love it.
Make sure you finish that Imagineering story. It's good. And I want a sequel for sure.
Yes, I do too. I'm actually kind of disappointed, Casual. I thought you were going to hit for She-Hulk.
I want to see her working with Megan Thee Stallion.
Megan Thee Stallion. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Don't you put that evil on me.
And our
Thank you very much.
There we go. Oh, hell, hold on. Actually, I actually have that. Hold on. Give me a second. Uh-oh. I got so many. Here we go. Oh, there we go.
Thank you very much.
There you go. You got it.
And Ace here says, you're right, OG. Everyone is worried about cost. Normally, Vancouver gets major pilot series shot up here. This year is extremely slow, as all studios are. Yeah, and that's the one thing that people have to realize. If you were to just look at YouTube or Twitter or, fandom, you would think Disney's the only one going through right now. Because the reason why you see so much Disney, because they're the most relevant. They're the biggest game. They're the biggest game in town. So people that are making content talk about Disney because, well, people want to watch stuff related to Disney. No one's making content about Popeye or Felix the Cat for a reason. Because it's not relevant. You see every other YouTube video is about Star Wars, Marvel, Disney, because it gets eyeballs, So, but it gets a little bit like misleading when you're surrounded by this on social media. You think it's just Disney. It really isn't. If the fans were really focusing on these other companies like they did with Disney, and content creators focused on these other companies like they did with Disney, you would see they're all going through it. I mean, Warner is going through it hell and back right now with how many cuts they're going through. Their stock price is down like $9 a share. Believe me. I mean, it's bad all around. Absolutely, Ace. You're absolutely correct.
This is why all the trades, when referring to this, even when it comes to Disney, they're referring to the industry at large, right? This arms race has really taken out a lot of capital across these major brands like Netflix, Amazon, and so forth. And so it's just about, controlling those costs and reevaluating the business in order to be profitable. We can't just have everything go into a black hole like it was leading up to 2021. We obviously have to make some money from all of this.
Absolutely. And Elfstrom Family Video says Disney should sell Hulu and license most of their family content, add back for more revenue.
Yep.
They don't need duplicate streaming service. Oh, absolutely, Elfstrom. That's a smart plan. You sell Hulu to like Comcast, who I think Brian Roberts, CEO of Comcast, was even saying if it's up for sale, they're interested. Sell it to them, and then you license out your content, right?
Correct.
Brilliant.
Correct.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. Which. It's kind of going back to the structure that they had before, right? Where they were licensing their stuff out to Netflix and so forth before they even had their own streaming service. It all comes back full revolution, which, by the way, that's what I was saying back in 2020 when these things were dropping and, theaters simultaneously with streaming and streaming only and so forth like that. Remember, I was having shows with you, OG. I was like, the math doesn't make sense. What's going on? Well, now everybody's figured that out. So, yay.
Hollywood and Wall Street actually got sucked into the subscriber arms race, and everyone got kind of bamboozled into it, and now we're having to live with that, the aftermath of that. Dreamy X here says, question for you guys. If Michael Eisner didn't push for Disneyland to become a resort, where do you think Disneyland would be today? It would be a lot worse off. Disneyland needed to expand into a second gate because psychologically, look, what they could have done, Dreamy, is they could have just taken the parking lot and they could have made one big Disneyland. They could have expanded Disneyland into one mega park. But the problem with that is psychologically, it's still one park. So that doesn't sell hotel rooms. Two parks, though, while technically you're utilizing the same amount of space, two parks sells hotel rooms because people hear two parks and go, oh, we can't do that in one day. We have to get a hotel room. So there's definitely that psychological element to it, and that has helped Disneyland tremendously. It needed to move it in that direction. But what do you fellas think?
It also sells park hopper tickets.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So
the DCA was not successful as it opened. I think we can all pretty much agree on that. But
that is perfect.
the concept of the Disneyland Resort and how it was supposed to function was actually very successful. Disneyland, the California Adventure, the Grand Californian, regularly sells out at a very elevated price point. Even the Pixar Hotel sells out. The occupancy has still been high, even though it's being worked on and it's not worth staying there, folks. But people feel compelled to do so. Downtown Disney was very successful, and I think the most successful thing that the entire resort concept brought was a revitalization of the surrounding area, the Disneyland, the Anaheim resort area, as we outlined there on that map earlier. That was in desperate need of some help, like a lot. And actually, Casual, if you keep watching the Imagineering story, it goes into that specific part of it about the revitalization of the Anaheim area. So all of those things combined made for, outside of probably the 5 freeway that should have been orientated the other direction. Anyway, the pull off for that was not successfully implemented, but everything else was, and we have benefited. We've all benefited by it in incalculable ways because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Showcase says here, add Song of the South to Disney Plus. Well, you know what? I don't know why they give you all these warnings for all these other films. I was watching the other day. Davy Crockett actually, and the River Pirates. I love all the old content, but they have this big, warning, like it's a different era and we're different now, kind of thing. Why can't you just do that with this movie? I don't know. It's weird. It's really weird.
It would take a lot of the sting out of people trying to characterize it as something that it's not, right? I mean, it's. Even with our buddy Jay earlier, he said, well, I've never seen it, but I know it's, this way. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You kind of have to see it and you take on your own interpretation of it. You can't just follow what everybody else says, because now we're playing this kind of genre or story game of telephone. It's like, no, we gotta,
Yeah, I've always been of the mindset, put your warning, whatever, let us see it. Let us debate it. Let us be able to talk about it and point out, okay, these are the parts that are the issue. Mm-hmm. How do we address that? How have we adjusted society? Has society adjusted to where this isn't the same problem that it used to be?
And trying to erase something is not going to erase history for what it was.
It just makes it worse.
Right. It's you learn from it. You move along from it. You grow from it.
Yeah. You have to learn from it. You have to acknowledge it existed, and you grow from that. If you don't, you're doomed to make the same mistake again, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
yeah,
it's crazy. Marty Snyder here says, start a casual war. Cedar up 11.86% in the last 3 months. Disney is up 0.68 in same time frame, but that's because of streaming issues. I'm not really sure. Does he mean Cedar Fair?
Is that Cedar Fair?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure. I don't follow.
I think so, because a casual war, and casuals capitalized like casual, and he's a Knott's guy in Cedar Fair.
Yeah,
maybe.
Cedar Fair.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, Marty. I believe it or not, I'm not I don't really follow a lot of the amusement park stuff outside of the Disney Universal stuff. So I'm not really familiar with what Cedar is doing, like financially or anything like that. But that's interesting.
I gotta be honest. I'm kind of worried for Cedar Fair, Knott's especially, because they're getting pretty aggressive, trying to get annual pass holders in there and trying to get regular tourists in there. We benefited immensely by doing the Knott's bundle, which included parking and the admission and the food pass as well, the all-day food pass, the dining pass, which was great. But oh man, their revenue, their per cap was down last year by 1%, but it didn't grow. And now we're seeing maybe attendance problems. We're seeing a lack of revenue to the point where they're getting rid of some of those vignettes that play out. For example, like you had the blacksmith actually blacksmithing something, right? Or you had the gal in the dress shop making lace by hand. Apparently, they've been told that you're on hiatus until the summer because of slowing down revenue. So,
Terrible.
I don't know. I mean, stock prices.
There were a couple of entertainment cuts already made for Boysenberry Festival, and I've heard that season pass sales were down 5% this year.
Which is consistent with what I saw in their annual report as well. Go ahead.
Well, and I think a problem for Knott's specifically is that it was for the longest time you couldn't get a Magic Key, so a lot of park fans were like, okay, fine, I'll get a season pass at Knott's. Well, since Disney opened up the Magic Keys again, those same people now are letting those Knott's season passes expire, and they've got their Magic Key, which is unfortunate, because Knott's is a really, really. I can't wait to go with you fellas. I haven't been since I was a little kid, and I watch Casual's streams on his YouTube channel all the time. It looks like a really great park with the stagecoach and the horses, and it's just, Knott's has always been a good friend of the Disneyland Resort. They always put out like these really classy kind of spreads every year with Disneyland's birthday and what have you. I've always loved and respected what Knott's does, and it breaks my heart to hear that they're struggling. So hopefully they pull out of it.
But I've heard the argument that now that Disney's expanding their let's say their availability, right? People are switching from Knott's back to Disney and that whole thing. But where's that availability coming from for Disney? Why did Disney just up the amount of Tier 0 days that they're selling per year? Why is Disney, getting aggressive on some of their own incentives for guests? And see, this is why I say, is the industry facing a little bit of headwind in 2023? I think so, and Knott's might be the canary in the coal mine for that.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not. The Comcast CEO came out the other day though and said they don't see any recessionary issues yet.
You just laid off a whole bunch of Universal Creative guys because you under the understanding that you were going to be facing something next year, and that's before you open a brand new Epic Universe, before you get going on work on the Frisco Park. I don't know about all that.
And you can't really expect them to come out and say, "Oh my God, the sky is falling! Everybody run for the hills! We're all going to die."
That's true. That's true. Well,
yeah,
you're right.
Comcast stocks, goes down 70%. Oh,
you got that flushing noise? No, I do.
Yeah, I do actually. Here we go.
There you go. Yeah, no, that's exactly what would happen if you said that. You're absolutely right, Casual. But there you go. It's interesting though too because, I think you might be onto something with that, Dre. Like, we're seeing signs here where, like, Disney's discounting. Universal is, I think, too. They, like you said, Universal Creative. Their exec team was like, I think the Wrap said that it was gutted. Universal Creative, like the top tier, were like gutted. They all took the packages, the retirement packages. So it's like there is this thing going on right now in the theme park industry, and it's scary. And these are all these parks that we love so dearly. It hurts to see them hurting because it impacts the fans because we might not see as much offerings or as many new shows or new rides if they can't afford to build this stuff. So it does impact guests big time.
And by the way, we're not giving any financial advice, right? We're just kind of pointing out what is going on. I understand. Sell the Cedar Fair stock. That's a decision that you'll make right there. Not giving out financial advice.
Watch it shoot back up and then comes back on the channel. VashSky told me to
I lost millions.
I blame you.
I lost millions and millions. No.
Undead Nerd here says, my main concern is the Monsters coaster. I believe what he's talking, or she, I'm sorry, Undead, I don't know if you're he or she or they, but what Undead Nerd is saying, it's a coaster over at Epic Universe because it feels like a Six Flags ride. Yeah. I got to be honest, a lot of the, look, they're construction photos, but there's a lot of Six Flagsy stuff coming up at the Epic Universe site, and it's just for me, but there's
Undead Nerd. But the Starfall Racer is more of a Six Flags ride than the Monsters ride.
But the Monsters coaster, because there's going to be two rides, right? There's going to be the dark ride, and then there's going to be the coaster. That's not too similar from like the Harry Potter and Forbidden Journey and the Flight of the Hippogriff, right? You know, you want to have something for families to do, and you want to have something for
even Velocicoaster.
But then
let's be real. It's
not themed. It's decorated. It's decorated,
but it's a coaster.
It is.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean. It's like the coaster itself. You got a great queue, and there's the rocks and whatever.
The coaster itself, half of it's themed in a raptor paddock. You launch right into rockwork with raptors coming at you, and then you go into the top hat, and that's the unthemed part. But it's a themed half. It's halfway themed.
I don't know. I've been on that ride, and I mean, you do kind of briefly see.
It's about as themed as a Thunder Mountain.
I don't know about that.
Honestly, honestly, Velocicoaster honestly is just as themed as the Incredicoaster.
Yes, that's fair. I think that's kind of where it's at. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that either. It's themed more. You have the animatronics in the queue for Velocicoaster.
But at the same time, at least you could still visualize Jack's sticks up his ass when you're going through the dips, rather than briefly seeing the raptors. You barely even see them, and they don't even
see them. But you do have rock work. You do have custom stuff actually created for it. Yeah, look, I think it's.
I don't know.
It's between there. It's not fully themed. It's not fully unthemed.
Can you hit it up for Slimer, because he's agreeing with me on that one.
What did he say? Okay,
no, the one down below.
Oh, there you go. But this is an interesting conversation to have, and then we're over 2 hours, so we're gonna start wrapping this up. But
we need to go to 3.
This is an interesting conversation to have, because there is a difference between like themed, like Indiana Jones Adventure, or like a Forbidden Journey, and decorated, which is like Incredicoaster, or like something like maybe like the Hulk at IOA, right? Where it's like they have statues of something.
I will say to Wizard's point, the Velocicoaster is more themed than the Hulk. I will say that one.
Themed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Decorated, as OG points out.
I wouldn't even say the Hulk is even decorated. It doesn't even really even have any streamers to me. It's just more so just a green track.
A nice poster with a beautiful.
It looks okay.
In all fairness, if you go to a Six Flags park and you go on like a ride like the Riddler, is it that much different than what you get at the Hulk?
No, that's what I'm saying. To me, that's exactly what I mean. I can't really say that for my wife, because she absolutely loves the Hulk. She loves the Hulk. So
that's wild. Cool. That's wild. Interesting conversation. That's a whole other thing. I mean, that's
honestly, I say we just take that topic. We just all come on and we just rip each other to shreds.
Oh yes.
You know what? Okay, real quick before we go. That's a new show idea. We can have like
ripping each other to shreds.
nerd battle, right?
Like Super Smash nerds.
That's awesome. Well, everybody on the thank you all so much for watching. George, Casual, Wizard, Dre. This was a fantastic conversation. We deep dived into a lot of stuff. We got real dirty and deep with that with the maps, with the with the Disneyland Resort. We're talking coasters, everything. It was a lot of fun. Epic Universe. I want to thank you all for coming on. I want to thank everybody for watching. I'm going to close it out. We're going to start off by Mr. Family Man 23, host of our Citrus Corner show here on the channel. George, if you let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. And before we do, I might have to change my title from Mr. Disney Family Man to 23 to Mr. Balls, as Slimer is calling me. So.
There you go.
But if you do want to check out my formerly known name, you could check me out on YouTube, Disney Family Man 23. You can interact with me on Twitter at Disney George. Please check out the new podcast I'm part of, Walk with Walt. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base with Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Yes, folks, we only have high-class stuff on this show.
Perfect. And then we got Casual. Everybody at home, by the way, we talked a lot about Knots today. You have to follow, subscribe to Casual on YouTube. I will link him down below after the show. He is incredible. He does amazing content. Check him out. Knots is a really, really charming park. So, Casual, thank you so much, brother, for coming back on. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. You can find me on YouTube at Theme Park Casual. Again, please subscribe because I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year. And I will be at the opening day for Boysenberry Festival on March 10th, live streaming from there. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Theme Park Casual.
And Casual, if you want to link your stuff in the chat, you can.
Yes.
You're doing it for everybody else. So you might as well,
Please
do it here.
Yeah, absolutely, Casual. If you could please do that. And actually, after the show, too, I'm going to add it into the show notes description as well. So they'll be in both spots. But please link it if you can, Casual. It'd be awesome.
Oh, gee, we got his drop here.
Oh, yeah, I got his drop. Hold on one sec. Hold on. I got so many drops now. I got to scroll through them. It's funny.
Yeah.
I'm a drop guy. Okay, just for Casual. Here we go.
I don't know. Fly casual.
There you go. We're flying Casual.
You have so many drops, OG. Who's the Mr. Balls now?
It's great. Down below, we got Mr. Wizard, our universal guy. If you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
You can find me at Theme Park Wizard on YouTube. Theme_Park Wizard on Instagram. And then themeparkwizard.shop to buy my shop. And then you can go and find me on Twitter at Parkwizard1 at Twitter. Tweet.
There we go.
There's no doubt our attractions will drive kids out of their minds.
There we go. There we go. And last but certainly not least, we got producer Dre, Dr. Dre, the host of the Freshly Squeezed show here on the channel. Dre, if you can let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, my friend.
Hey, the best place to find me is going to be at VashSky on Twitter. That is at V as in Victor, ASHSKY. Thank you so much, Casual, for putting that in the chat. Go ahead and link me there. And if you want to go ahead and see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55, where we have some amazing shows on there, including our own Citrus Corner right up there with George, covering everything Walt Disney World. Story Geeks with Jay, where we talk about everything in front of the camera. The Orange Nerd, where we talk about everything behind the camera, including what's going on and C-Suite and Burbank and so forth, and the executive suites, which all of these decisions are actually made regarding the corporations that we love so much. The original flavor of Orange Grove 55, what you're watching right now, and Freshly Squeezed, your source for juice and news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove, hosted by me.
There we go. Right. And I think our friend Showcase is kind of giving us a little bit of a hint with those emojis now.
Before you do, OG, really quick, to everyone who is still with us over 2 hours, I applaud you. Thank you for sticking with us. And again, you all matter to us. You are a part of this channel. You make us drive to create content for you all. And I just wanted to add in there again, if you would like a thank you postcard from the OG55 crew, please email down below orangegrove55@gmail.com your info. OG will pass it along to me. We'll talk about what kind of postcard you would like, which character you'd like, and we'll get it out to you. I promise you, everyone is still who has put in their order, so to speak, will be getting it. I'm sending everything out at once in a bulk, so you will be getting that special OG55 crew thank you postcard.
Yes, you're sending it.
Spared no expense.
You're sending it in a bulk. Another ball joke, huh, George?
Yeah, I had to. Yes.
There you go. Right.
Yes, folks, we only have high-class stuff on this show.
All right. Well,
and speaking of balls, OG, let's drop that for Mr. Showcase, shall we?
there we go. We're gonna close out the show with our favorite Carl's Jr. drop. Here you go, Showcase.